Moving on to our next story. And I do want to do a little bit, Josiah, before I let you dive into this, as you're going to present it, a little bit of a disclaimer, everyone. If you are not able to handle max cringe, max nausea while hearing a story, and your entire body to experience ick as an emotion and feeling, then maybe this segment's not for you, because it's pretty dang disgusting and disturbing. With that being said, take it away.
Appreciate the segue there, Luke. So Luke said cringe and Luke said ick. So that should be your clue that we're about to talk about the former president of the United States, the current leader of the Republican Party, and the potential president again in 2024, Donald Trump. What are we talking about? Because there's a lot of gross and ick qualities to the former president. One of the worst is his propensity towards objectifying women and making all sorts of inappropriate comments and very often actions towards women. And he's had a long history of doing that in his private life, in his public life. But a story recently broke about a former Trump administration official. I'll say that again, a former Trump administration official, Miles Taylor, somebody who worked for Donald Trump in his capacity as the sitting president of the United States. And in this book called Blowback, he lists a number of examples and a number of anecdotes, a number of recollections in which Donald Trump made wildly inappropriate remarks about women in the Trump administration. But arguably the worst is that one of the women that he made comments about, lascivious, disgusting comments, was his own daughter, Ivanka Trump. So we've got a Newsweek article. Going to pull that up if you don't mind, Luke. And so Miles Taylor, former chief of staff at the Department of Homeland Security, describes several incidents that made women in the Trump administration uncomfortable in this upcoming book. These incidents included, the book says, claims by aides that Trump made lewd comments about his daughter Ivanka's appearance and talked about what it might be like to have sex with her. This prompted a rebuke from his chief of staff, John Kelly. Scroll down a bit and kind of dive into that. And again, brace yourselves for maximum cringe. So, according to Blowback, the book, the worst of Trump's behavior was Trump's lewd comments about his own daughter. Aides said he remarked about Ivanka Trump's breasts, her backside, and what it might be like to have sex with her. Remarks that once led John Kelly, the White House chief of staff at the time, to remind the president that Ivanka was his daughter. Afterward, Kelly retold that story to me in visible disgust. Trump, he said, was a very, very evil man. Now, again, I think some of this is probably not surprising, Luke, given Trump's history and given the fact that, even as we're talking about it, I think we can recall some instances even before Trump became president in which he made some really weird comments about Ivanka, very often in Ivanka's own presence. So what do you think about this?
Yeah. The underlying reality there that Trump says these things, feels these way, expresses these things. Oh, sorry, hit my mic there. About anyone and about his own daughter is disturbing, disgusting, or at least that Miles Taylor is alleging this. But I guess you could call them accusations, or the stories that Miles Taylor is outlining there are a lot more believable because of the past that we're aware of with Donald Trump. And I'll just segue into a clip I know we were going to get to of some things, as Josiah mentioned, before Trump was president, that again already started to make clear in our mind how disgusting Donald Trump was, especially towards his daughter. Take a look at this.
Yet at times, his fatherly praise is downright cringeworthy, like on The View in 2006.
I've said that if Ivanka weren't my daughter, perhaps I'd be dating her. You know?
Stop it! Oh, it's so weird! Stop it! You know what? You are sick!
Far from protecting his daughter from being talked about as a sex object, he has encouraged it multiple times. On Howard Stern's radio show in 2004 and then again in 2006.
By the way, your daughter,
She's beautiful.
can I say this? A piece of ass.
Yeah.
She looks more voluptuous than ever.
She's actually always been very voluptuous.
It's
She's
unbelievable.
tall. She's almost 6 feet tall.
In May, Ivanka described herself as a feminist while defending her father.
Okay, we'll stop it there. But yeah, my goodness, getting nauseous. So to me, obviously, about Trump as a person, this is notable, but also about, once again, a point that just is time and time again, clearly and, incapable of ignoringly in our faces, which is that the line from the party of family values, that they were the party of family values, that they cared about these certain values that people should abide by, or at least strive to be in alignment with, all of that was BS. That was nothing, not at all. It was only a way to justify often judgment of other people who they said don't fit into those family values. Often LGBTQ people, oh, we're allowed to be bigoted towards you because you don't fall into our family values. Well, clearly you don't even care about your family values. So don't be trying to force your distorted views on other people in a hateful manner, because this is your guy. This is your guy talking about the voluptuousness of his daughter and apparently, allegedly, fantasizing about sexual acts with her.
Yeah. So the frustrating thing is, once again, it underscores one of the many manifestations of the Republican Party's hypocrisy. As you say, this is a party that has long touted itself as the party of Jesus Christ and Christian principles and family values. And yet for the past, it's 2023, so the past 7 or 8 years, they have essentially sworn fealty to a man who has absolutely nothing in common with Jesus Christ or his teachings, who once famously said, by the way, that he's never had to ask God for forgiveness, which would be a strange thing for a Christian to say, number one. Number two, you're talking about a serial philanderer and now a person who repeatedly makes incestuous remarks about his own daughter. Meanwhile, you're hyper-focusing on the relationship that's made between two consenting adults of the same gender or the same sex. That's a betrayal of family values, but you lusting after your daughter after repeatedly cheating on your wife after, and so on and so forth. It's disgusting. And yet, there's been no introspection, Luke. To this day, they have doubled down on claiming the idea that they're the party of family values, despite who their leader is, and despite the number of instances in which Republican officials on local, state, and federal level have either been charged or convicted of crimes of a wildly unfamily value-like nature. So this is something that I think, for me personally, I wish Democrats and their surrogates in the media would more aggressively push back on. It's not enough that what they're saying in a vacuum, what many Republicans say in a vacuum, what Donald Trump himself says in a vacuum about the LGBTQ community, it's in and of itself disgusting. But then when you combine it with instances like this, I want Democrats to push back and on what basis do you and your leaders have any claim to the notion that you're the party of family values? You're clearly not.
And a lot of times this is a relatively okay strategy in certain situations, to ignore the talking points of the other side, in that you don't want to allow them to take the conversation to the battleground that they have kind of a prepped set of talking points about, right? So not engaging with certain talking points can sometimes be effective. But I think Democrats should do a better job of addressing the talking points, and actually, more than just saying that's not actually something you authentically buy into, or that's not a consistent set of principles, saying we embody what you say that you embody much more than you do, and you're wrapping all this up with a bunch of hypocrisy. Because the Democratic Party talking about family values, number one, family values doesn't mean at all that you raise your kids to hate other people because they're different. And family values also says maybe the government has an interest in properly investing in your child's education, properly investing in your community, in communities of poverty who are, higher rates of poverty, and child care for your kids, making sure they're not food insecure. That falls into party of family values to me. And I think as much as possible, similar to the we're for protecting the kids, but don't want to address the leading cause of death in the United States for kids being firearms, to take the talking point, take the branding, and say, not only are you not being honest
up to
in
your
the
own standards,
pushing of this, right, but we actually live up to what should be the value you're pushing for. Thank you so much for watching. For the outro on this video, I want to plug Josiah's channel. Hit them with it, Josiah.
Hey, everybody. I appreciate you watching. You can find me at youtube.com/@Pondering Politics, one word, Pondering Politics. If you like progressive commentary that focuses on coalition building with other elements of the left and calling the Republican Party out for what it's become, I hope you'll view my channel, give me a like and subscribe and some feedback. Again, youtube.com/@ponderingpolitics. Thanks again.